Everybody, it's a delight for me to be here with my esteemed colleagues in government. Certainly you, Dr. Gallagher, we're very fortunate to have a man of your talent here heading up NIST, to General Alexander, the premier cyber warrior in the whole global protection of all that is good. And of course, my colleague, Ike Leggett, the county executive of Montgomery County, and also himself a veteran. Many don't remember or know that Ike was a captain in the Army during the Vietnam era and served with distinction. And to this day, he's ready to be called into duty, and he's actually part of the duty here. We're all called into duty. And I know Governor O'Malley will be joining us. Well, thank you for saying that I'm a historic figure. To me, historic figures wear powdered wigs and bonnets and crinolines, so I don't have my bonnet and crinoline on today. But for me, it's not how long you serve, but how well you serve. And to represent the state of Maryland with its incredible resources in research and technology, both in the public domain and in the private sector, is one of the great joys of my life. I've kidded my colleagues from Massachusetts that they have those obscure universities up on the Chester River. My friends from California, Feinstein and Boxer, that they might be the biggest, but we're the greatest. So, and why? Because really, we do represent the cutting edge in innovation. And part of that is in the world of cyber. I am no Janie come lately to the cyber world. As a member of the Intelligence Committee, I remember now almost 6 years ago reading one of those little briefings, General Alexander, that you sent to us with such fidelity and speed, that talked about the attack that was going on in Estonia. And I turned to my staff and said, you know what, this is going to be big. This is new. This is something we haven't seen before. And we could end up triggering Article 5 of the NATO Charter. The Article 5 says an attack on one is an attack on all. Estonia is part of NATO. In other words, what the hell is going up there? Go up and find out. In addition to being historic, I have a reputation for being dainty. And so that's really where I began, and that's really where I know so much of our committee work was. And I look at the issue of cyber through 4 prisms. Number 1, governance. How do we govern ourselves? Number 2, technology development. What do we do in the area of technology to not only remain on the cutting edge, but even to be over the horizon? Number 3, workforce. Are we developing the workforce that we need today and the workforce that we're going to need tomorrow, not only in the public area, but also in the private sector? And number 4, whatever we do, how we honor our Constitution and protect our civil liberties. So those were the 4 areas. And as we worked on cyber, we saw that there was no other institution really in the world like the National Security Agency, with its incredible expertise, its wonderful history, and the fact that in this new world, they would help lead the way from the technical standpoint. But we are the United States of America, so we needed the private sector to be able to interact with the civilian agency. And I thought, in addition, as we work with Homeland and its legal charter to defend America, there still needed to be practical interaction. And I thought, what is the best agency but NIST? And when we looked at how we were going to protect particularly our critical infrastructure, we thought NIST would play an important role. My very good friend and colleague, Governor O'Malley, had a federal task force. That federal task force wanted to look at what our facilities were and how to maximize them. And it was that task force that recommended that we established this Center on Excellence. excellence. And I remember being with Governor O'Malley here in 2011, talking about how Maryland is the epicenter of cybersecurity because of the public agencies we have, the University of Maryland and the work it's doing to develop a workforce, that we could be where the action is. And so, taking the O'Malley recommendation and working it through with Dr. Gallagher and his wonderful team like Ms. Dodson, we established at NIST the National Cybersecurity Center for Excellence. And as a member of the Appropriations Committee, this is not an earmark. God forbid that I would do earmarks. Not me. Oh, no, never. But because it was already part of the national mission, I put in $10 million in the federal checkbook to be able to establish the National Cybersecurity Center for Excellence. And that's what brings us here today. But whatever we do in government, we can't do without the private sector. And this is where you came in. And the honor roll that Dr. Gallagher just outlined is so fantastic. And I can't thank the founding members. Really, you're going to look back and see you're the founding mothers and founding fathers of something pretty important here today to make sure the private sector helps us solve real-world problems in real time with real solutions without overspending or over-regulating from your United States government. And we'll be united to create these practical solutions, bringing real-world users facing specific threats, particularly to our critical infrastructure, finding people to develop those solutions in the private sector or academia, and build solutions that can be installed immediately. Now, that's a word government doesn't understand, immediate. Maybe we ought to have E-immediate. And then helping other users facing the same threat. I think that this will be just a fantastic opportunity. And we hope that we can expand on this program. Now, I want you to know that the President of the United States absolutely believes in NIST. When he signed his executive order on how we could further protect the critical infrastructure while we work through other legislative issues, he empowered NIST to play a central role. I want to support the President, and the President wants to support NIST, and he put the money in the federal budget for 2014 in order to help NIST be NIST in all that it does, the American standard, not the Chinese standards for our private sector. And I will tell you, I will do, as the full chair of the Appropriations Committee, to protect that federal budget and make sure we protect NIST. We're going to work with the President to add another $5 million so that we have $15 million of public money to support this as you come involved. We're also going to work to provide money for cybersecurity research and development, working with the private sector, and we expect that we'll be able to do that in the range of $55 million. We want to continue working with the President and the White House on the $24 million NCCoE initiative to protect consumers for their online payments. And no matter what money you use, whether you use paper money, money backed by the gold standard that Rand Paul wants to do, or whether you're a Bitcomer or a bit player, it doesn't matter. We want whatever you do that you're protected. I'm learning this kind of fast as I go along. But the point that I wanted to make, that from the recommendation of Governor O'Malley, as we looked at the world of cyber, we wanted to have a place where we could come together, where we could always protect intellectual property and proprietary interest, but where the best talent of the private sector working with government can protect America. And I believe that the critical infrastructure is at risk. We know what's happening. You know what Iran did to the banks in Saudi Arabia. You know what they're doing around the world. But we have to protect our state secrets. We have to protect your trade secrets. We have to protect our consumers online, and also we need to be able to protect our critical infrastructure, whether it's the power grid or our financial services or others where if there was an attack, it would be devastating. So I'm happy to be here today for this signing ceremony, and the next signing ceremony I'm going to do is when the President signs the budget that I make sure we pass on time, online, no shutdowns, slam rags, gridlocks, or deadlocks. So forward together immediately.